Hi everybody, I'm Tim Hafey. I'm principal at Eastridge High School. And in the chance that we are able to bring more students back, I want to go over what the day would look like at Eastridge. It's not really actually going to change because we planned for this. We planned for this last summer. We didn't know last summer if we'd be able to bring in a lot more students in October or if we'd be sending everybody home at some point. So we really planned for this, and the transition would be fairly smooth. In fact, we think in this building we could be ready in about 24 hours to 48 hours. We've already brought in equipment and chairs and desks and things like that, so we're just waiting for it to happen. Transportation might take a little bit longer to change over, maybe about a week after we get the go-ahead. The go-ahead comes from the measurements about COVID in the county, so that's beyond our control, but once we get the go-ahead, we could do this fairly quickly. So I'm going to go over what the day of a student would look like with the changes if we were to bring in Group 1 and Group 2 at the exact same time. So when they get off the buses or they get out of the cars, they'll enter through the same doors that they're doing now. So the buses pull up in front of school. What I'll do right now, they get off the buses and it's a pretty smooth thing. What I'll do if we have more students and more students to get off the buses, I'll release them one by one. So it'll probably take about 4 or 5 extra minutes to get in. We just want to make sure everybody's spaced at the door so they're not grouping up. We'll use the same 5 doors that we've been using all year. If you're dropping off your child, you still drop them off in the back of the parking lot, and there'll be people outside to help, and they'll go through the athletic doors. The same screening in the mornings. When students come in, they'll still have to wear their masks all day long. They'll still have their temperature taken, and they'll still have to answer those COVID questions. All that would be the exact same. So that when they enter, there is one change. Up till now, students have been grabbing their breakfast off of a cart if they want to eat, and they go to their homeroom. The homeroom, all the classrooms, the seating is currently at least 6 feet apart. So they sit down, take off their masks, eat their breakfast if they're going to, put their mask back on, and then they discard their things. So they're not walking around eating. So if everybody comes back, the rules would change where desks or chairs or tables would be 3 feet apart in classrooms. So we can't some of the classrooms would be fine and you'd be able to be 6 feet, but we don't want to chance that. So what we do is anybody who's eating breakfast would go directly to the cafeteria instead. They'd grab their breakfast there and they'd sit in a section. The cafeteria is already set up for 6 feet apart. Those people who are not participating in breakfast would just go straight to their homerooms. When the students who are in breakfast are done, they will go straight to their classrooms and we'll begin the day at 7:30. So as they go into their classrooms, I want to let you know, whatever classroom it is, we will have to rearrange seating. So we will make sure that there's the table configurations that have to move. Some rooms will need more desks. Some rooms will actually just have to reconfigure everything. And we'll make sure that the seats are at least 3 feet apart or more. That'll take a day to reconfigure some things and make sure everything is set up. Also, we're going to have to reconfigure some other spaces. For instance, our 9th grade gym will become a second cafeteria because the seating would be 6 feet apart in any spaces where there's eating. So during lunchtime, the 9th grade gym and actually our auxiliary gym will be set up with both desks and some chairs and tables, and we'll make sure that everybody's safe. So they would get the same food no matter what where they're eating lunch, and other than that, it would still be just like lunch now. The courtyard is actually already open at this time of year, so students can go out into the courtyard during lunch, and that helps to spread some people out, and we would make that accessible to everybody and encourage people to use it. It just gives more square footage throughout the day. So walking through the child's day, so they say they go to first period, they're going to be walking into classrooms where it's already well ventilated. I don't know if you know this, but we turned up the ventilation, the fans, as high as they can go. So we've been beyond what we need to do all year long, getting fresh air in and the air exchange throughout the rooms. That won't stop. That'll actually continue. What we'll probably see is a lot more windows open as we get to warmer weather, and that helps with ventilation. So that's not going to change. We're already in a safe place for the air ventilation. There will be some changes, though, in music and in PE. If we are able to make a shift where music and PE would be able to be 6 feet apart instead of 12 feet apart, that gives us some flexibility. It also means that if we take over the 9th grade gym, the phys ed staff has assured me that they can run safe PE classes in our large gym and our other athletic areas, hoping actually to get people outside more in the spring than actually in the gym and the exercise spaces that we have accessible. Movement in the building, up the stairs and down the hallways. We've taped off the hallways so that they move down the right side and they come back down the right side, and the stairwells. At the beginning of the year, we had some one-way hallways. Our hallways are pretty wide here. So watching watching the students move around, we've estimated that we'll be able to move around safely around the building with two-way traffic, but it's taped off, and the students are already doing an outstanding job walking on the right side and moving from space to space. One thing we would need help with is reiterating with your child to make sure that they're wearing their mask. So the mask is covering their nose and their mouth all of the time. And that's really, really important wherever they are in school or on school grounds. We want to make sure, unless they're eating and sitting down, that their masks are covered. That's not a change. They're already used to that. And most of the students do an outstanding job. And if they're not, we address it. We make sure that we take care of it. So that will continue. Moving to the end of the year events are going to look a little bit different. In the past, we spread things out in May and June. What we've done to keep them safe is we've moved almost all of our end of the year events into outside spaces, primarily the courtyard. So award ceremonies and concerts, even our prom and ball are going to be situated in and around the courtyard area. We have a beautiful courtyard. If you've never seen it, it's like a village park. We're bringing in a gigantic tent and then a smaller tent attached to it that's going to fill up a good chunk of the courtyard, so that if there's poor weather, then we'd be able to sit under that. There's flaps, so it'll flap up, and we're working with the class advisors and some parents and some kids to make sure that we'll be able to do that safely, but it'll also be lots of fun. Some of the award ceremonies will be outside, for instance, National Honor Society or scholarships or whatever it is. We have a whole bunch of them, but they will be outside too. Now, we have to keep all of our ceremonies under 200 people. If you go above 200 human beings in space, the way, at least now, and I'm talking, and this is being recorded in April, the way it is now from the state is that if you go above, in an outside space, above 200 people, we have to start doing testing and checking for COVID testing, or we have to check to see if there's vaccinations. There's a whole bunch of stuff that would really limit the fun for people and would probably keep some people out, and we want to make sure that people are included in a safe way. If we go 200 or under, what's going to happen is that then we don't have to do the testing, but you do have to follow all the COVID procedures, spacing, and all those things. We can manage all the spacing. So what you're going to see is for some of the year-end ceremonies, even if we don't bring all the students back, together, but the year-end ceremonies will go on, that we will limit it to 200. So for the smaller ceremonies, a student will be able to invite more guests. For some of the larger ones, we want to make sure the students are at least invited, and we may not have any guests, but we'll stream it so that you can watch it. Graduation will be in our stadium on the 26th of June, which is a couple weeks later than we usually do it. It's actually 2 or 3 weeks later than we usually do it. We have to do it in an outside space. We weren't able to do it downtown inside where we normally do it. We're planning now a series of graduation ceremonies so we don't have more than 200 people inside the stadium at any one point. So we're working on the details of that. We're going to get the schedule out to you, and if it's raining that day, then we go on the 27th the next day. That's the rain date. So no matter what, those year-end ceremonies are going on. I'm really looking forward to working with your students and your children for the rest of the year. There'll be a way for you to ask follow-up questions about this if you want to, and we'll give you directions for that. But please give me a call or send me questions, and we can answer anything that you have about bringing students back or any of these end-of-the-year celebrations. Thank you for everything you've done this year.